Hey, what's up, guys? I got kind of a special video for you today. We're going to be going over a Magic deck that is very near and dear to my heart. This is the deck that I play in Legacy. It's actually the only deck I've played in Legacy. Took me about 3 years to build, and still, I guess it's not done. But I've gotten top three in locals a good 4 or 5 times with this deck, so it's not a bad deck at all. It is burn, so if you're looking to get into Legacy and comparatively not spend that much money, it's a pretty decent deck to start out with. Very basic. Just deal as much damage as quickly as you can to the other guy. To start off with, we have 18 basic lands. We're also gonna go not just the main deck, but we're also gonna go later in this video into the sideboard and other cards that some people run and burn, cards that I used to run in the deck before I found other things, because it can be a little versatile. But anyway, so 18 basic lands. I mean, you don't really have any reason to play non-basics and burn, just because, and you really only need like two or three out on the field at any given time. Any more is just kind of pointless. So let's go into the creatures. We have Grim Lavamancer. He's really in here more for creature control than anything else. I mean, he lets you because you're throwing instants and sorceries in the graveyard all the time. This kind of gives those a use. I use it mostly for creature control. Helps deal with problem cards like Thalia a lot. Um, and it's decent for finishing people off or planking at them. But that's part of the reason I only run two. But he's a useful card. He sees a lot more play in decks like Jund, but he's not bad in burn at all. I've seen people run a set. I think that's a bit excessive, but two works for me. Next is Hellspark Elemental. Um, he's a 1 mana or one generic, 1 red, 3/1 with Trample Haste. And at the end of your turn, you sacrifice him. Again, good for quick damage. He gets in there, he gets out. He can run over smaller creatures, which is really nice. Excuse me. Oh God. Mm. Oh God. I wish I didn't have the hiccups. Um, he also has Unearth, which you pay 1 generic mana and 1 red mana. You can bring him back from your graveyard, um, and basically attack with him again. Um, you can only do that as a sorcery, I do believe, though. And then when you do that, after that you exile him at the end of your turn instead of going back into his graveyard. So again, nice quick damage. So yeah, that's the whole idea of the deck, just quick damage. Vexing Devil. God, I about shit my pants when this card came out because I'm like, this card is awesome and amazing, and every burn deck should run it, and it's so great. Okay, the thing with Vexing Devil is, first of all, he's a 1 mana creature. He's a 4/3 1 drop, first of all, which is fucking fantastic and efficient as hell. But that's not really why you have him in the deck. His effect is when Vexing Devil enters the battlefield, any opponent may have it deal 4 damage to him or her. If the player does, sacrifice Vexing Devil. So it's basically um, a 1 mana 4 damage spell. It's basically a 4 damage lightning bolt, which, I mean, it's a win-win for you. If they take the damage, then you just paid 1 mana to deal 4 damage to them, which is really good. And if they don't take the damage, then you just paid 1 mana for a 4/3 creature, which is also very, very good. So there's not really any downside to this card whatsoever. Against like really creature, the only thing is against like Pox, um, Black Control, a lot of decks like that have easy ways of dealing with creatures. You might want to sideboard it out for other cards, but I mean, even then, this card is amazing, and every burn deck should run it if they play a format that it's legal in. Next up is 2 ball lightnings. Um, if I find any thing better. Like I could easily replace this with a couple other things that I'm going to show you guys later. But it's 6/1 trample haste for 3 mana. That's all it is. Again, it's just in there for quick damage. And it's only 3 mana, which actually is kind of it's 3. That kind of give you idea. 3 mana is the most expensive thing in the deck. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, just 6/1 trample haste. It can run over stuff. I mean, it's great. So for instance, kind of the main part of the deck, we run 1 fork and 4 reverberates. If I had the money, I would run 4 forks instead, just because it's older and cooler. But it doesn't really matter which version of these you run in this deck anyway. They both do the same thing. Basically, when you play a spell or when somebody else plays a spell, you pay 2 red mana and copy it. It's really good against blue because you can, like, oh, I play Lightning Bolt. Oh, I Force of Will your Lightning Bolt. I'm going to pay 2 mana and copy Force of Will and target Force of Will. It's basically the red counter spell. There's also a very good combo with this that I'll go into in a minute. But there's really no difference between Fork or Reverberate. The only difference is that when, because Fork does the same thing, except when it copies the spell, it also makes the spell red. Whereas a Reverberate, I think the spell just keeps the same color it was. So again, in this deck, not really all that relevant. I'm sure in other decks it might be, but whatever. Lightning Bolt, one of the main staple cards of the deck. You run 4 of these. If you could run 5, you'd run 5. You 1 mana, 3 damage, instant, target creature or player. It's pretty basic card, pretty great card. Gets rid of again. A lot of times you're targeting the player because you want to get them down as fast as you can. But it can also get rid of Thalias. It can get rid of young Pyromancers. It can get rid of some pretty fairly common problem cards. Next card, Pyroblast. It costs 4 generic and 2 mana, but nobody ever pays the mana cost for it because you don't need to. The alternate, you can pay this card. You can pay for the cost of the card in an alternate way. You can sacrifice 2 mountains to play it instead of paying the mana cost, and it deals 4 damage to target creature or player. And this is the combo I wanted to talk about. Combo this with Reverberate. How this works is you tap 2 mana, so you have 2 red mana floating in your pool. You sacrifice the 2 mountains for Reverberate, and then you sacrifice 2 mountains for Pyroblast, and then you play Reverberate copying Pyroblast. You just paid 2 mana for 8 damage, which is very, very good. Very good for finishing people off. Makes your kill range a lot bigger, which is really nice. So that's Pyroblast. It's just a good card in general, but with the Reverberate combo, 8 damage for 2 mana, it's amazing. Thunderous Wrath for the next card. Not many people run this in Burn. I don't know why. The only time this card is dead is when it's in your opening hand. Which, I mean, I run the set, so it happens, I'm not going to say frequently, but enough so that it's kind of an issue, but even then it's not really that big of an issue. It costs 4 generic and 2 red. Nobody ever pays the mana cost for it that way. It has a miracle cost for 1 red, which means when you draw it, you can pay 1 red and just play it. It deals 5 damage to target creature or player. It's like a lightning bolt on steroids. So again, it's always pretty good. The only time this card is bad is when it's in your opening hand, but that doesn't always happen. So, and I mean, I run 4 so I can get it off the draw. Funny story, I actually had a guy drop out of a tournament when I top decked, I think, 3 of these in a row against him. He's just like, fuck this, I'm done. But yeah, Thunderous Wrath, really good card. One mana for 5 damage. I mean, that's actually kind of what Burn boils down to a lot. What's the least amount of mana I can pay to deal the most amount of damage? So let's get into the sorceries of the deck. 4 Chain Lightnings. Basically the same thing as Lightning Bolt, except it's sorcery. You can target creature or player with it. Only thing is that if they also pay red mana, they can shoot it back to you and deal 3 damage to you or one of your creatures. So it has a potential to be arced back to you, but the only time that's ever happened to me, because I've never actually come up against another burn player. The only time I've ever had that happen to me is against the occasional Goblin player or the occasional red, blue, green, or Rug Delver. So that's just something to keep in mind. But basically, it's an excuse to run another Lightning Bolt. Lava Spike, kind of the same thing, 1 mana for 3 damage. Except it's a sorcery, and you can only target players with it. So that's kind of the downside of it. I mean, most of this stuff you're going to be flinging at the other player anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Rift Bolt, again, another version of Lightning Bolt. This one costs 3 if you hard cast it, but you can suspend it for 1, which you pay 1 mana, and you set it off to the side like an enchantment or something, and then it doesn't activate until suspend, how it works is you pay mana to put counters on it, and it doesn't activate until all those counters are removed. This has suspend 1, which means you pay 1 mana for it, and it basically hits them on your next turn. You can target creatures or players with it, so it's basically just another lightning bolt. Um, Flame Rift, Flame Rift. 1 generic, 1 red, deal 4 damage to each player. Pretty good card. Again, it expands your kill range, kind of like Fireblast. It hurts you, which can be kind of the downfall or downside, I guess. But again, you're just trying to burn them as hard as you can, as fast as you can, as quickly as possible. So your own life total really isn't anything you're concerned about. This is the main deck. This is how I run it as it stands. Next, we're gonna go into the sideboard. I don't want deck editor. Guess I want to leave this game. Local game. Do load local deck. Sideboard for burn. Um, some people get a little bit more crazy with it. Some don't. This is the sideboard that aside from the Pyroblast and the Red Elemental Blast, the Smelt, the Smoke, and the Tormod's Crypt are all my sideboard. I should run Red Elemental and Pyro, but I just can't afford them and don't have them right now. Basically, Tormod's Crypt, it's an artifact, costs 0 mana, so it's free. You play it, you can tap it, sacrifice it, and remove and exile everything in your opponent's graveyard. It fucks up. It fucks up Reanimator real bad. It fucks up Dredge real bad. This card has won me games. This card has won me games. It's a very good card. I recommend it for pretty much any legacy deck that any sideboard in any legacy deck I think should have this card, at least 1 copy. Um, unless you know you're the one playing Dredge or Reanimator or whatever. But this card, amazing, exiles everything in the graveyard, everything in your opponent's graveyard, and you can use it, and you can activate the ability as an instant. So I mean, it's an amazing card. Smoke. Not many people play this because there's another card that's frequent in burn decks, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I don't play that card, so I run this instead as a sideboard. This is my anti-goblin. This is basically my anti-goblin card. Um, and my locals are a couple people that like to play goblins a lot, so this card's for them. It costs 2 red mana. It's an enchantment. Each player can only untap 1 creature during his or her untap phase. So it stops swarm decks pretty easily. It can be really good against elves too. But any kind of swarm deck, the smoke can easily shut down. Um, Red Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast, essentially the same card. It's kind of like Fork versus Reverberate. It's not that much different. This is your anti-blue deck card. If you're playing against a blue deck, you're going to want to put these in. They counter a blue spell or destroy a blue card in play. This is Red's anti-blue card. It counters spells and destroys blue targets, so pretty useful against blue decks. which a lot of Legacy decks like to run blue. And then we have Smelt. There are probably better cards for this, but I don't run those probably because I don't have them. But this card, very basic. 1 mana, destroy target artifact, and it's an instant. Really good against Affinity. Early game. Really good against early Affinity. And it's fast. Just I play it. Artifact. Okay, I destroy it. I destroy it. Same turn it comes out because it's an instant, and it only costs 1 mana. Pretty good sideboard card. Next, we're gonna go into some suggestions, some cards other people play in burn, some cards that other people frequently play in burn, some cards that people like to play in the sideboard. And this one local deck burn suggestions. Okay. The first one is Ensnaring Bridge. It's a 3 mana artifact. Each creature with a power greater than the number of cards in your hand cannot attack. The idea behind this is that it stops creatures and it stops swarm decks. The idea is that you're constantly burning out and playing off the draw, so you should never have more than 1 or 2 cards in your hand anyway. So it's supposed to stop kind of the big beaters and the swarm decks. A lot of people like to use it in burn. The only reason I'm not is because it's expensive and I don't have the money to get it right now. And I kind of want to keep my burn deck focused more on speed than anything else. But it's a pretty good card. A lot of people like to play it. It's very common to see in burn decks. The other one, I used to play this, Shrine of Burning Rage. Very underrated card. It's 2 mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep or whenever you cast a red spell, put a charge counter of Shrine of Burning Rage. You can then pay 3 mana, tap it, and sacrifice it, and it deals damage to another target creature or player equal to the number of counters on it. It's kind of a slower card in terms of burn decks, but it's kind of nice just to have it sit out there and you're playing your burn spells, you're building it up, you're building it up, you're building it up, you're building it up, and then you have like 6 or 7 counters on it, and you can just sacrifice it for game, or if nothing else, to try and draw out some damage prevention that they have. It was kind of slower, which is why I stopped running it. But if you're running a more stable version of Burn, I would definitely suggest this card. It's pretty good. It's cheap in terms of mana cost, and it can't be worth more than like $1 or $2 right now anyway. Goblin Guide. This card, almost every other Burn deck out there plays this card, and I don't know why. It's a 1-drop, 2/2 with haste. I mean, so that's a 2/2 with haste for 1 is pretty good. Um, the biggest thing though is I hate its effect. It's whenever Goblin Guide attacks, not when it deals damage. When it attacks, the defending player reveals the top card of his or her library. If it's a land card, that player puts it into his or her hand. You basically, this is why I don't like this effect. You're basically giving them free land and removing any dead draws that they may get. I think that is a way terrible downside, like hugely outweighing downside to get a 2/2 with haste, especially when I can pay 1 mana and get possibly a 4/3 with Vexing Devil instead. I honestly don't understand why people run this card. Another thing is Blood Moon, and I really suggest this more as a sideboard card. It's a 2 generic, 1 red enchantment. It turns all non-basic lands into mountains, which is pretty fucking good. You'd want to use this more as a sideboard card than anything else. I guess you can main deck it if you just had random space in the deck. It makes all non-basic lands mountains, which is really good because, and I mean, obviously in Legacy people are running a ton of non-basic lands. There's actually a deck based around this called Painter. You combo it with Painter Servant, and it just completely locks people out from doing anything. It's actually kind of caused a lot of people to put some basic lands in their sideboard, specifically to kind of sideboard against this card. Another suggestion is Smash the Smithereens. For artifact removal, it's a 1 generic, 1 red. It destroys target artifact and it deals 3 damage to their controller. So it's like a smelt that comes with built-in lightning bolt, It's not bad. I just and it I just like smash or I just like Smelt better because it costs less, and I if I want to deal damage I can just chuck a bullet at him anyway. But a lot of people like to run this instead of Smelt, and I can easily understand why. Um, Now, and this is some people like to run this. I haven't seen it as frequently as I used to. It's the only non-basic land that Burn has any excuse to ever be running, and it's Barbarian Ring. You can tap it to add 1 red mana to your mana pool, and it deals 1 damage to you. Um, you can also it also has a threshold. You can pay 1 red mana, tap it, and sacrifice it. It deals 2 damage to a target creature or player. Um, Only activates this if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard. Honestly, I don't see the point of running this when you can also be running stuff like Lavamancer, which basically does the same thing without hurting you. And it's not even like it gives you 2 red mana or anything. It just 1, and it pings you for 1. Which I mean, in Burn, you don't really care about your life total anyway. But I really don't see any reason to run this card anymore. I mean, I could see maybe like before Lavamancer was a thing, or before a couple other cards were existed, but I don't. There's really no reason to be running this card now. But I hope that gives you kind of an overview of kind of a generic-ish. It's actually here. Let's kind of go back to the main deck. I hope this kind of helps you understand the burn deck. It's a pretty easy deck to play, um, easy deck to understand. We'll just kind of load the main deck back here. This is actually kind of more of a faster, more aggressive variant of it. Um, but a lot of stuff of what you see in here is pretty standard. Aside from the ball lightnings and the thunderous wraths. But like I said, the big disadvantages with burn though is yeah, the big disadvantages with burn deck is any deck that is faster than the burn, which is like goblins and elves pretty much. Anything that messes with the mana cost of certain cards like Thalia. Um, there are a couple artifacts that are like that have stuff like anything under. I'm trying. I think it's Is it Trinisphere? I'm trying to remember the name, but there's an artifact that basically makes it so any spell that costs under 3 to cast is automatically countered. That messes you up a lot. Um, Cards like that, and a lot of times you end up playing off the draw. So you're just hoping, oh, I hope I get a Thunderous Wrath. I just hope I can keep pulling burn spells to finish this dude off. Because a lot of times by turn 2 or 3, you've completely played out your hand. Which is why a lot of people like to run Ensnaring Bridge. But those are kind of a few of the downsides of playing burn, and it's a very one-dimensional deck. But anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. If you want to keep up with the channel, kind of get an idea of what videos are coming up, ideas for videos, etc., you can easily find all that information in the Facebook link below. Follow me. You can keep updated. Also, if you like what you see and want to support me, there is a PayPal button on my channel. So yeah, as always, thanks for watching.